During dinner, my brother said that my wife was pregnant and that the baby was his. But then I revealed a secret. I've been married to my wife, Emily, for 6 years. We met in our late 20s, both tired of dating apps, both wanting something steady. She was calm where I was reactive, thoughtful where I was impulsive. For a long time, we balanced each other out in a way that felt solid, safe, the kind of marriage people describe as boring, but in a good way. My brother Jake has always been the opposite of me. Loud, charming, reckless. He's the guy who walks into a room and somehow becomes the center of it without trying. Growing up, teachers loved him, friends followed him, and even my parents, though they'd never admit it, always seemed to give him more slack. If I messed up, it was a lesson. If Jake messed up, it was just Jake being Jake. Despite that, we stayed close. Or at least I thought we did. Jake came over a lot. Too much, probably. He lived 10 minutes away, never called before dropping by, and treated our house like an extension of his own. Emily never complained. She laughed at his jokes, listened to his stories, defended him when I rolled my eyes and told him to grow up. I told myself that was normal. That was family. The first real crack came one night when Emily told me she was pregnant. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, holding the little test in my hand, staring at the faint second line like it might disappear if I blinked too hard. I felt shock first, then excitement, then fear. All of it tangled together. Emily was smiling, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. We talked for hours that night. About timing, about money, about how our lives would change. She said she was scared. I said I was too, but that we'd figure it out together. That's what married people do. But over the next few weeks, something felt off. Emily became distant in a way that was hard to describe. Not cold, not angry, just somewhere else. She'd zone out mid-conversation. Her phone was always face down. She'd flinch slightly when I touched her, like she wasn't expecting it. At the same time, Jake was around even more. He'd come by with takeout, with beer, with excuses to hang out. Sometimes I'd come home from work and find them already sitting at the kitchen table, talking like I'd just interrupted something. Every time I felt that small tug of discomfort in my chest, I shoved it down. I told myself I was being paranoid, that pregnancy changes people, that stress makes everyone weird. The night everything changed wasn't dramatic at all. Emily sat me down after dinner, her hands shaking so badly she had to clasp them together. She said there was something she needed to tell me, and before she even finished that sentence, I already knew. That sick, sinking feeling in your gut doesn't lie. She told me the baby might not be mine. Not isn't. Might not be. I remember the room feeling too small, like the walls were inching closer while she talked. She told me it happened once, that it was a mistake, that she hadn't known how to say anything because she was terrified of losing me. I asked her who it was. She hesitated. That pause hurt more than the words that came after it. When she finally said my brother's name, it felt unreal, like she'd said it in another language and my brain needed time to translate it into pain. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, staring at the floor, trying to understand how my life had split into a before and after without me noticing the exact moment it happened. Emily cried, apologized, said she hated herself, said she'd tell me everything if I wanted. I told her I needed time, space, air. What I didn't tell her was that part of me already knew. A few weeks earlier, I'd found messages on her old tablet. Nothing explicit, just enough. inside jokes, late-night conversations, things that didn't belong between a wife and her brother-in-law. I didn't confront her then because I was scared of what confirmation would do. Because once you say it out loud, you can't take it back. After her confession, we talked. A lot. More honestly than we ever had before. She told me everything. How it started. How it spiraled. How she convinced herself it didn't mean anything until it did. And here's the part no one expects me to say. I didn't immediately decide to leave. I was angry, devastated, but I was also confused. There was a baby involved now. A future human being who didn't ask for any of this mess. We agreed to take a DNA test once it was possible. Until then, we'd keep things quiet. No family, no friends. Just us trying to figure out what the hell we were supposed to do. Or at least, that was the plan. Jake didn't know that I knew. And that's what brings us back to that dinner. My parents had invited everyone over. Just a normal family meal. Nothing special. Jake showed up late, loud as always, cracking jokes, pouring himself wine like he owned the place. Emily barely touched her food. Halfway through dinner, Jake raised his glass and said, "Well, since we're all here, might as well stop pretending." I felt my stomach drop. He turned to Emily, then to me, with this smug half smile I'd seen my whole life. "He deserves to know," he said. "The baby's mine." Forks froze mid-air. My mom gasped. My dad swore under his breath. Emily went pale, her eyes darting to me in pure panic. Jake thought he was blowing up my life. What he didn't know was that the explosion had already happened. I slowly put my fork down, wiped my mouth with my napkin, and looked straight at him. "I know," I said. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I've ever felt. You could hear the hum of the fridge in the next room. Someone's chair creaked. Jake's smile vanished, replaced by confusion. "What?" he said. "I know," I repeated. "Emily told me weeks ago." His face shifted through about 5 emotions in 2 seconds. Shock, anger, relief, then something like fear. That's when I told them the real secret. That this wasn't a dramatic reveal for me. That I wasn't blindsided at the table. That I'd been living with this truth every day, waking up next to it, trying to figure out how to survive it. And that's when the dinner stopped being a dinner and turned into a negotiation none of us were ready for. Because suddenly everyone wanted answers. Solutions, someone to blame. And sitting there, surrounded by people who had helped create this mess, I realized something terrifying. There was no option that didn't break someone. And that was just the beginning. Dinner didn't end after that. It just stopped being dinner. My mom was the first one to speak. She said my name like she used to when I was a kid and scraped my knee. Soft, panicked, trying to pull me back to some safer moment that didn't exist anymore. My dad kept staring at Jake like he was seeing a stranger wearing his son's face. Emily hadn't said a word. She was staring straight down at her plate, one hand pressed flat against her stomach, like if she didn't move, none of this would be real. Jake, on the other hand, recovered fast. "That's not how this was supposed to go," he said, half laughing, like he could still joke his way out of it. "I mean, you were supposed to be mad, shocked, something." I looked at him and felt something I hadn't expected. Tiredness. Just deep, bone-heavy exhaustion. "You don't get to script my reaction," I said. My voice sounded calmer than I felt, which seemed to bother him more than yelling would have. My dad finally slammed his hand on the table. Not hard, but hard enough. You're done talking, he said to Jake. You've said more than enough. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Emily finally looked up at me, tears spilling over. I didn't want it like this, she said quietly. I wanted us to figure it out first. I nodded. I know. That word, no, hung in the air again. Heavier this time. My mom looked between us, confused. Figure what out? What does that mean? And that's when it hit me. I could either let this turn into a screaming match that would echo through our family for years, or I could take control of it. Not fix it, control it. So I told them everything. Not every detail, but enough. I told them Emily had come to me weeks ago, that we were waiting on a DNA test, that nothing had been decided yet, that no one was moving out, no one was being forgiven, and no one was being cut off. Yet. Jake exploded. What do you mean nothing decided? He said, standing up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. It's my kid. I should be involved. I laughed then. A short, bitter sound I didn't recognize as my own. You don't even know if it's yours. He froze. What? You slept with a married woman who was also sleeping with her husband, I said flatly. That doesn't exactly make this a closed case. My mom gasped again. My dad looked like he might actually throw up. Jake's face went red. So what? You're saying she cheated on both of us? Emily flinched. Jake, stop. No, I said. Let him hear it. Let him hear how messy this actually is. That's when my dad told Jake to leave. Not asked. Told. Jake tried to argue, but my dad didn't budge. He pointed to the door and said, If you don't walk out right now, I don't know what I'll do next, and I don't trust myself. Jake grabbed his jacket, muttered something under his breath, and stormed out. The door slammed so hard the wall shook. No one spoke for a long time after that. Eventually, my parents left too. My mom hugged Emily, awkwardly, carefully, then hugged me and whispered, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what she meant by that. Sorry this happened. Sorry she raised Jake. Sorry she didn't see it coming. When the house was quiet again, Emily and I sat at opposite ends of the couch, the space between us feeling wider than the room. That went worse than I imagined, she said. It went exactly how I imagined, I replied. That night, we barely slept. She cried. I stared at the ceiling. Every memory of Jake, every shared beer, every inside joke, every time I defended him, replayed in my head like a cruel highlight reel. The next few weeks were some of the strangest of my life. From the outside, things probably looked normal. We went to work. We bought groceries. We nodded politely when neighbors asked how the pregnancy was going. Inside the house, everything was fragile. Emily tried hard. Too hard, maybe. She cooked my favorite meals, asked how my day was, apologized in different ways, like maybe one of them would finally land right. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I also didn't comfort her. We were stuck in this in-between place where neither of us knew what to say without making things worse. Jake texted me constantly. Long messages, angry ones, apologetic ones. Some that tried to guilt me. Some that tried to scare me. You can't keep me away from my kid. You're being unfair. This was just as much her fault. I'm your brother. I didn't respond. The DNA test was scheduled for as soon as it was medically possible. Until then, everything felt like it was on pause, except my thoughts, which never shut up. One night, Emily asked the question I knew was coming. If the baby is yours, she said quietly, would you stay? I didn't answer right away. I don't know, I said finally. That's the truth. I don't know if knowing it's mine fixes what you broke. She nodded, like she'd expected that answer, even though it hurt. And if it's not? She asked. That one was easier. Then we're done. She didn't argue. A few days later, my parents asked to meet. Just me. No Emily. No Jake. We sat in their living room, the same one where we'd had Christmas mornings and birthday parties. It felt wrong to be talking about something this ugly there. My dad was blunt. I don't know how to be a father to both of you right now, he said, but I won't pretend this didn't happen. My mom asked me what I needed. That question caught me off guard. I don't know, I admitted. Space, time, and I don't want Jake around Emily at all. They agreed, at least for now. But families don't exist in neat boxes. Word spread. Aunts called. Cousins texted. Everyone had an opinion, even though none of them were living in my head. Some said blood is blood. Some said cheating is cheating. Some said I needed to think about the baby. And I was. Constantly. What none of them understood was that this wasn't just about a kid. It was about betrayal stacked on top of betrayal. About realizing the two people I trusted most had chosen each other over me, even if just for a moment. Then, one afternoon, everything shifted again. Emily came home from an appointment and told me the doctor wanted to move the DNA test up. There was a way to get preliminary results sooner than expected. My heart started racing. I hadn't realized how much I'd been bracing myself until that moment. Because once we had those results, there would be no more maybe, no more middle ground, just consequences. And the closer that day got, the more I realized something terrifying. No matter what the test said, I was going to lose someone. The waiting was worse than the fallout. Once the test was scheduled, time started moving in this cruel, uneven way. Days dragged, nights raced. Every sound in the house felt louder, every silence heavier. Emily and I stopped pretending things were normal. We spoke only when we had to. Logistics, appointments, bills, short sentences with no room for emotion. It felt safer that way. Like if we didn't open the door to feelings, nothing new could spill out and make things worse. Jake showed up unannounced one afternoon while I was home alone. I heard the knock and knew it was him before I opened the door. There's a certain rhythm to the way your family knocks, like they already belong on the other side. I almost didn't answer, but I did. He looked rough, unshaven, eyes red. The confidence he usually wore like armor was cracked, hanging off him awkwardly. "We need to talk," he said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You've said enough." "I know," he said quickly. "I messed up, I know that. But you don't get to cut me out like this." I laughed again, that same hollow sound. "You cut yourself out the moment you crossed that line." He rubbed his face, pacing. "I didn't plan this. It just happened." "That's the lie people tell when they don't want to take responsibility," I said. "Things don't just happen for months." He stopped pacing and looked at me. "Do you love her?" The question caught me off guard. "I did," I said. "I still might. I don't know." "And if the kid's mine?" he asked quietly. I didn't hesitate. "Then I'm done. With her and with you." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "You'd really walk away from your own brother?" "You already walked away from me," I said. "You just did it behind my back." He stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. "I never meant to hurt you." "That doesn't mean much now," I said. He left without another word. When Emily came home and I told her Jake had stopped by, she sank onto the couch like her legs gave out. "I didn't ask him to," she said immediately. I know, I replied. But this is what our lives look like now. People knocking, demanding answers, picking sides. She covered her face with her hands. I hate what I did to us. I wanted to say something comforting, something kind, but every comforting sentence felt like permission, and I wasn't ready to give that. The night before the results came in, neither of us slept. Emily kept getting up to use the bathroom. I kept checking my phone even though I knew there'd be no message yet. Around 3 in the morning, she spoke into the darkness. "If it's yours," she said, voice barely above a whisper, "I'll do anything. Therapy, moving, cutting him off forever, whatever you need." I stared at the ceiling. I don't want to bargain over my own marriage. Silence again. The next day felt unreal, like walking through water. We sat in the clinic waiting room, not touching, not looking at each other. A TV mounted on the wall played some morning show, the hosts smiling and laughing like the world wasn't cracked open for anyone else. When the nurse finally called Emily's name, my heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The doctor didn't drag it out. No soft build-up, no easing in. He looked at the paperwork, then at us. "The results are conclusive," he said. "The child is not yours." For a second, I didn't react at all. Then everything hit at once. Relief, rage, grief, all tangled together so tightly I couldn't separate them. Emily started sobbing, not quiet crying, full body shaking, hands over her mouth, like she couldn't hold it in anymore. I just sat there. Because the baby not being mine didn't fix anything. It didn't undo the betrayal. It didn't rewind time. It didn't magically make me trust her again. On the drive home, Emily kept apologizing, over and over, like repetition might change the meaning. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please stop," I said finally. "Not because I don't hear you, because I do, and I don't know what to do with it." When we got home, I told her I needed space, real space. "I'm not asking you to leave today," I said, "but I need time without pressure, without promises, without plans." She nodded. "Okay." That night I slept on the couch. Jake found out the results through my parents. He texted me a single message. "So it's mine." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Yes." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "We need to figure this out." I put my phone down without answering. Because here was the truth no one else seemed to understand yet. The problem wasn't figuring it out. The problem was that every possible solution hurt someone. If I stayed with Emily, I'd be raising a constant reminder of betrayal and tied to my brother forever in a way I never asked for. If I left, I'd be walking away from the life I built and a woman I once trusted completely. If I cut Jake off, I'd fracture my family beyond repair. And if I didn't, I'd be betraying myself. Sitting there alone in the dark, listening to the house creak and settle, I realized something that scared me more than the test results. The dinner table wasn't the breaking point. It was just the moment everything stopped being hidden, and the real decisions, the ones that would define the rest of my life, were still ahead of me. After the results came back, the house felt different. Not quieter, not louder, just hollow, like something essential had been scooped out of it, and everything else was echoing around the empty space. Emily moved through the days like she was afraid to touch anything, afraid to say the wrong thing, afraid I'd suddenly snap and tell her to leave. She kept her promises, though. She blocked Jake everywhere, changed her number, switched doctors, started therapy on her own without me asking. None of it brought relief, because every right thing she did just reminded me how wrong everything had already gone. Jake didn't wait long before forcing the issue. He showed up at my parents' house one evening while I was there. I hadn't planned on seeing him, but there he was, sitting on the couch like nothing had changed, like we were still brothers in the same way we used to be. "I'm not here to fight," he said as soon as he saw me. "I just want to talk like adults." I almost walked right back out the door. My dad stopped me. "Please," he said, "just hear him out." So I sat. Jake talked about responsibility, about stepping up, about how he'd be there for the baby financially, emotionally, however needed. He said he didn't want to replace me, didn't want to take anything from me. Every word felt rehearsed. "What do you want from me?" I asked when he finally stopped. He hesitated. "I want you to not hate me." I laughed again. I hated how often that laugh was coming out of me now. "You don't get to decide that," I said. "And you don't get absolution just because you're ready to be responsible now." He looked at my parents. "See? He won't even try." I stood up. "Try what? Pretending you didn't sleep with my wife? Pretending we can do holidays together like this is some awkward business deal?" My mom started crying. My dad stared at the floor. Jake's voice hardened. "So what? You're just going to walk away and let her raise my kid alone?" "That's between you and her," I said. "You made sure of that." I left before anyone could stop me. That night I told Emily I was done. Not in anger, not shouting, just done. "I can't live like this," I said. "Every decision we make from now on would be built around what you and Jake did. I don't want that life." She didn't argue. She didn't beg. That almost made it worse. "I understand," she said softly. "I just wish I'd understood sooner what I was throwing away." We talked logistics. Who would move out? How long we'd take to separate things. It felt surreal, planning the end of a marriage in calm, polite sentences. She moved out 2 weeks later. The house got quieter after that. Too quiet. I found myself listening for sounds that weren't there anymore. Her keys, her footsteps, her laugh from the other room. Jake tried one last time to reach out after she moved. I didn't respond. My parents struggled with it the most. They wanted peace, unity, some version of the family they'd had before, even if it was cracked and taped back together. I couldn't give them that. "I don't hate him," I told my dad one night, "but I don't trust him, and I don't want him in my life." Dad nodded slowly. "Sometimes love doesn't survive betrayal," he said, "even between brothers." Months passed. Emily had the baby, a boy. Jake was there. I wasn't. I heard updates through other people. He was healthy. She was doing okay. Jake was trying. Good for them. As for me, I started over in small ways. Rearranged the house. Picked up hobbies I'd let go. Learned how to sit with loneliness instead of running from it. Some nights, I still replay that dinner in my head. The moment everything surfaced. The moment my brother thought he was dropping a bomb, not realizing the ground had already collapsed beneath my feet. People like to ask if I regret not trying harder. If I ever wonder, what if? I don't. Because the truth is, the secret I revealed that night wasn't just that I already knew. It was that I'd already lost something before anyone ever said a word. And sometimes, the hardest part isn't choosing who to walk away from. It's choosing yourself when no option feels clean. The strangest part was what came after everything settled. No shouting, no courtroom drama, no big final confrontation where someone won. just silence slowly filling the spaces where people used to be. Emily and I finalized the divorce quietly. No drawn-out fights over furniture or money. By then, neither of us wanted to hurt the other any more than we already had. When we signed the papers, she cried. I didn't. I thought that meant something was wrong with me, but later I realized it just meant I'd already done my grieving. Jake sent one last message a few weeks after the baby was born. A picture. A tiny hand wrapped around his finger. I didn't respond. Not because I felt nothing, but because I finally understood that responding would reopen a door I had closed for a reason. Some relationships don't end with anger. They end with clarity. My parents still struggle. Holidays are split now. Conversations are careful. Names are avoided. I know they wish things were different. I do too. But wishing doesn't undo choices. Sometimes people ask me if I hate my brother. I don't. Hate takes energy. What I feel is quieter than that. He's someone I used to trust, who now exists outside the life I'm building. That's all. As for Emily, we don't speak often. When we do, it's brief and respectful. She's focused on being a mother. I'm focused on being myself again, whoever that turns out to be. And here's the part I didn't expect. I'm okay. Not healed. Not perfectly fine. But okay in a way that feels honest. I sleep through the night again. I laugh without forcing it. I make plans without wondering who might ruin them. That dinner didn't destroy my life. It exposed the cracks that were already there and gave me the chance to stop pretending they didn't exist. The secret I revealed wasn't meant to shock anyone. It was the truth I'd already been carrying alone. And once it was out in the open, I finally understood something that took me way too long to learn. You can love people deeply and still walk away when staying would cost you yourself.